All right, it is time to get started. Hello and welcome to TransForm Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software, and I'm joined today by Sarah Mitchell, who's in charge of our documentation department. Today we're going to be going over the concept of calculated fields. This is actually a question that was written into one of our account managers here at Alpha. It's someone who's looking for help in using calculated fields, much like they've done in other products. So today we're going to go into that. We do have an upcoming release of the Alpha Anywhere Filler and I think even TransForm Central coming out fairly shortly, but it's not quite ready for beta testing. I was hoping it would be this week, but we found a couple of issues that we want to solve first before we put it in your hands, but I think that should be any day now. You will get an email from really directly from me letting you know when the beta is ready for you to play with. So let's get started today. I know I've covered calculated fields in TPL before. I think it was around here, slide 181, in our discussion of embedded business logic. So that is making applications, phone applications that are smart, that can figure out based on the inputs in real time some sort of calculation or maybe kick off some sort of workflow or something like that. But in this case, we're going to talk about calculations. The example that I gave before involved basically entering in a couple of pieces of information, and it was to calculate the area of a shape, and then there was a button that you would click and it would give you the answer at the end. Today's example is going to be a little bit different. It's a live example, so let me pop over to it here. Here we go. Today's example, what we're going to do is we're going to work actually with date fields, which can be a little bit more tricky, so I wanted to incorporate that in today's lesson. So in our example here, I've built a really simple form. It's got a date of birth, and that's actually the only field that the user can enter is the date of birth field. Based on the date of birth field, we have two other fields, an age field and a generation field. So the age field, as you might expect, figures out what your date of birth is, and it takes today's date, subtracts the date of birth, and figures out what the age is of the person. And generation actually puts them into one of those generation classes. Of course, these are mostly made up classes, but it seemed like they would be fun. So baby boomers, Gen Xers, and so on. And so we put that into our little application today as well. So let me show you how that works. Here in Alpha TransForm, I first created 3 fields. So and in each case, when you create fields, it by default, it gives them field names of field 1, field 2, field 3, regardless of what you've put in for the title up here at the top. I strongly recommend, especially when you're doing calculations, that you give them proper titles. It makes them so much easier later on when you're doing some programming. So for my date of birth field, I gave it a field name of DOB. For age, I gave it a field called age, and for generation, a field name called generation. Okay, so because age and generation are calculated fields, I probably don't want the user to modify them in any way. I want the system to set their values. So in order to do that, I set these 2 fields to read only, and I did that here in the commands prompt area, right? Just basically clicked on yes for read only. And the same is true for generation as well. That's also read only. The only one that's not read only is this one here, date of birth. Read only is set to no. So now back here, after I've set up my fields, I selected my field here from the forms types list, and I went and it shows me properties here. This is where you can set the display name and the form ID. But there's another section here. It's not on by default. It's called advanced features. You want to tap on advanced features or click on advanced features and come down to where it says edit custom code, because it's using our TPL coding language that we actually build out our calculated fields. So let me show you what I've built in this particular case. Actually, before I go further, Sarah, can you just verify that my sound is coming through and that you can see my screen?
Yeah, all is coming through loud and
All
clear.
right, fantastic. Thanks very much. All right, so I'm going to go take a look here we are in the TPL editor. This is where you end up writing your TPL code. I know for a lot of you on the call, this is review, but for new people, this is important stuff that you need to get. So when we open up the TPL code editor, you'll see that it's broken up into 3 sections. The first section lists the fields and the events that go with the field. So by an event, I mean, event literally means when something happens, right? So in the case of the date of birth field, there are 2 things that can happen. I can either edit the field, in other words, I'm going in to change the value, or I can have already changed the field. And I'm interested in this case in firing off a script when I've changed the field. So what I do is I go down to the date of birth section here, and I clicked on the change button. You'll see right now it's green. What that indicates is that I've already typed some stuff into here. If it were blank, it remains gray, like it is for this one over here. So here is the code that I have for changed. I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit to make it a little easier to read. And up at the very top, I'm going to take you through this code piece by piece. The first thing I did was I calculated what the age is of the person based on their date of birth. And I did that using a function called date difference. Now, how did I know about the date difference function? Well, I went over here to this reference section and I went to the fields list. And here are the function families, one of which is date. And date difference is the first one right here. And with date difference, you can tell it the scope of what you want to get back as an answer. Let me tell you what I mean by scope. If I put in a date of birth, and I want to get an age, I'm only interested in getting years back. But there might be times where you're interested in minutes. I believe we even do seconds as well. Maybe you're doing some sort of calculation to figure out how much to pay someone or how long a job took or something like that. You'll probably be using something other than years, but we're using years in our example. So the date difference one, and I'm going to click on it. Whoops. Oop, my bad. Bonk. I thought that we had a documentation here for that. We do. I'll find that in a minute, though. So I used that to calculate what the age was, and then I set the field age equal to the years part of that difference. So here we've got age as the field here. Oops, sorry about that. The other thing I was interested in doing, so that was fairly simple. I used basically the syntax for setting a field is you put a $sign in front of the field name, and then you set it equal to what you would like it to be set to. In this case, I set another variable here, and I called this one year of birth. And this figures out what year the person was born in by just simply taking the date that they enter. And I'm using another function here called date parts. What date parts does is it separates out parts of the date, the years, the month, the day, and it gives you back the section that you want. In this case, the section I wanted was the year. So I took that year of birth and I started to put in some if statements. I said if the year of birth is greater than or equal to 1946, but less than or equal to 1964, then I'm going to set this field generation equal to baby boomer. Otherwise, with my else if statement, I said if it's between 1965 and 1979, it's generation X, and between 1980 and 2013, it's millennial, more or less, of course. So these all go in here onto this onChanged event. And then once I'm done adding in all my code, I click save. I haven't made any changes here, so I'm not going to click save. And then once you click save again. And then the last thing you would do is you would upload the form. There'd be something here indicating that you had made a change and it was time to upload it. So let me go ahead and make this my screen back to its regular size. And let's take a look at that form running on a phone. So I've got my phone here and I've got Air server running. So I should be able to broadcast my phone up onto my screen. All right. And there I am. And so here I am back in TransForm. Now, if I had just created a new form, and I've created a form called Fun with TPL, and if I had just modified that recently, I would want to hit that refresh button. I'm going to use my mouse here to show you where that is, to get the latest copy of that form definition onto my phone. It doesn't hurt if you already have it, so I did it again. So now I'm going to choose my form, and you'll see there's 3 fields here. And the first field, let's set that to Doesn't really matter the month and the day, but let's set that to like 1995. So if you were born in 1995 on March 10th, you would be 25 years age, and you would be in the generation known as millennials. So let's try that again. Go back to add form. Actually, sorry, I didn't actually have to exit to do that. I could just change that at any point. And let's go further back in time. Let's go back into, I don't know, the 1970s, 1976. If you were born in 1976, you'd be 44, and you'd be part of the X generation. And then likewise, oops, I just did what I said I wasn't going to do. Let's go back to add form. And we'll choose another date. Let's go way, not way, way back. We'll go kind of far back. Let's try 1948. If you're born in 1948, you'd be 72, and you'd be in the baby boomer generation. So that's really the gist behind setting up calculated fields. Let me just go through it one more time. Close this down. Okay. So when you build a form, you'll probably you want to have a calculated field. You set them up like you would any other type of field, including ones that you'd fill in by hand. But after you set them up, there are two important things you need to do. The first is you should give that field name a proper field name, and not just field 1, field 2, or field 3, as the default would otherwise have it be. The second thing you want to do is you want to mark that field as read only. So that the user can't edit it. Now, if you want to allow the user to edit it, even though it's calculated, go for it. Just keep in mind they may type in something you don't want. Once that's done, you're going to go back to the list of form types, and you're going to choose your form here, and you're going to scroll down to the advanced section. If the advanced section is not open, you're going to tap the arrow next to it, and you're going to go down to edit custom code. And then you'll choose the event handler, the thing, in other words, when do you want the script to fire? In this case, I wanted it to fire as soon as I had changed the date of birth field right here. Now, there are certain times when you're going to have more than one field that's going to change. You might have date of birth and it was, I don't know, some other random cutoff, and you wanted to do that calculation each time. In that case, I'm not going to go into it today. You might want to instead build a function rather than build your fields out here. And that's actually covered in the Alpha Anywhere, the Alpha TransForm Users Guide. We've gone into that in detail. If you need the TransForm Users Guide and you don't have it, send an email to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. I'd be happy to send that off to you. Speaking of documentation, we have some new documentation that's going to replace our FAQ section. Right now it's in the infancy of what's been put up, but there's a lot more that's coming thanks to Sarah. And one of the ones that we had today was, how do I create a calculated field? So let me grab this page for you, because this how-to page is going to be useful, especially as it gets filled out a little bit more. And let me go down into the chat window, and I'm going to paste that into chat. So now you've got a link to that page, and you might want to bookmark that because this is going to grow over time. Let me see if there's anything else I want to cover. I don't think really. I think the big things here for today for calculated fields: name your fields, probably make them read only. You go into use the TPL editor in the advanced section from the forms list. Fields are referenced using a $sign in front. There are a list of functions, and you can find out about those functions right inside the TPL editor. So that's it today. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. We
We
have
do.
one question.
Why didn't you choose calculated instead of read only? Sarah, do you want to answer that one? Because both of us were a little annoyed by how that worked.
So
It's a
when
good
you
question.
look at it,
Yep.
Can you go back to the form?
I can. Yeah, let me do that right now.
Yeah. So read only is it means, is this field read only? And it's yes, it's read only. No, it's not read only. And then calculated means it was dynamically computed as read only. And it doesn't mean that this field is calculated. It means that it's either read only or isn't read only, and that's been determined by code that has been added in the TPL editor.
Exactly.
So Yeah, that's
So,
what that
for
means there.
example, it might see that the person who's logged in has got a role of supervisor, and so they're allowed to change the field. So that calculation that they perform looks at that and says, oh, they're a supervisor. Let's set read only equal to no, you're allowed to change it. But if you don't have that designation, that's the other thing. Would it be great if there was a field right here where you could just type in that value, or better yet, the field where it is where the calculation is performed? It would be, and in fact, that is a request that is currently in our system to have it be done there instead of having to go hunt around for it in the TPL editor. Are there any other questions today?
We don't have one just now, but go ahead and type them in. I did want to ask a question though. In your presentation, you went to the code editor, but what if that button is disabled and I can't click it? What should I do?
Wait, this is a quiz, isn't it? Because you know the answer to this one.
I know the answer. I'm quizzing
You
you.
know the answer to this one.
Yeah.
If you can't click edit custom code, I have a feeling that's a permissions thing. Let me see, am I on the right track here? And I would need to
Nope,
go to,
you're way off base. Go back. If it's
yeah,
disabled, it's probably because you haven't selected yes for the radio button immediately above it.
thank you.
Because that's set to no by default, and you need to click yes
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
It used to be, I don't know if that's the case anymore, that you had to have a permission of allowed to do code. But I think
There may
that's,
also be permissions that are associated with that as well.
yeah.
But
But if you're an admin or a form designer, you should have those permissions
yeah.
already. But yes, sorry, that's enable custom code can be turned on and off. Thank you. Yep.
Yep. Just wanted to make sure we covered that.
Perfect. Anything else? That'll do it. Thank you very much for attending. If you have questions, we don't always have to do this basic stuff too, but if you've got questions or you'd like to see some examples covered in further detail, by all means, let me know. I would love to do a presentation that would be helpful to you. So until next Tuesday, thanks very much for joining us. Sarah, thank you very much for your help.
You're
Hope you have a
welcome.
great week. Take care and goodbye.